What's going on YouTube? Kronos here and welcome back to the PSO2 video. So today's video, we're actually going to talk about a topic that gets asked a lot in my streams, even in the comments. It is how to move around Grade Augment and use the Grade Augment Transfer system. Now, just so you guys are aware, a lot of times people tend to ask questions about, affixing, augmenting. Should you be saving certain things? Should you be using certain things? And I've always said, if you're not using your Grade Augment slots, you're kind of throwing, and that does feel a little bit harsh to say, but when you understand how easy it is to move these augments around, how you're not really locked into anything and you really are just getting free power, you'll understand why I say this is basically throwing, because in reality, there is no reason not to fill up all of your S-grade augment slots. You absolutely have access to being able to use these, and there's no reason why you shouldn't just put everything together and use what you have available to you, especially when it's mostly free in this case. For the example we're going to be using today, I'm going to show you guys how I change up my Rivalite soaring blades whenever I decide that I want to go play bouncer for a little bit, and also how I swap up my other weapons and kind of look into what I need to get a hold of to make sure we can put things together. We're actually going to put together maybe 2 or 3 different weapons, and you guys will get a chance to see how this actually works out and how you can take advantage of it even in situations where you might not go full on augmenting. You're just using your S-grade augment slots. But we will see that in just a moment. And through the magic of editing, suddenly we're in the shopping area. So this process, again, not too difficult of a process to go through. So we're gonna go over here to Doodoo and we're gonna go ahead and choose transfer S grade augment. So this process basically works out is you can take any S grade augment from any weapon and swap them between each other. Now there are a few rules when it comes down to doing this process itself. First and foremost, the weapon itself has to have the available slot on it, meaning if you're trying to move an S grade, say an S5 augment, the weapon you're trying to move it to has to have an S5 augment slot on it as well. Even if it's taken up, it just has to have one available to it. So the first example we're going to do is my Rivalite soaring blades. Now, whenever I'm playing Bouncer Phantom, I would like to have healing on this weapon itself because it's going to keep me alive. However, when I play Etwal, which I usually mostly play, that healing does not work, meaning that slot is basically dead if I'm not using it. It should be this S4 slot itself. This is what I usually swap out, is S4 Photon V adaptation or Photon 5 adaptation, however you like to pronounce it, up to you. But we're going to select this weapon as our target weapon. First you select your target, then you select the weapon that you're going to be pulling things over from. So we select our target. It says it's a locked item, you want to proceed. Just letting you know that, hey, you've locked this. This is one of the weapons you use, probably. You mean not to sell this or mess this up. Did you mean to do this? Yes. Pretty simple there. So now you're going to pick the second item. The second item, of course, is going to be what we're going to be transferring things over from. Now, it's important to note that you will not be losing anything from these weapons. You actually won't lose the weapon at all. It's not the same as augmentation transfer. I'm sorry, it's not the same as affixing where you're using the fodder itself. You keep both pieces. The only thing that you're doing is moving things between the 2 weapons. So in this case, our Lifesteal Strike is left on this Atlas EX. You could have something like just a base Atlas to use. I just happen to have this weapon lying around, so I put Lifesteal Strike, or I put Lifesteal Strike on this since that's what the SAF from this is, and whenever I need to swap it around, I can just use this weapon itself. I keep it in my storage to go ahead and grab whenever I need it. So I'll go ahead and select it. Now what you'll see here is 2 S4s and then all of the other affixes from our Rivalite soaring blades. You can actually see it all listed here. Normally we have just these 8, but you can see here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Only 8 slots, right? And you can't pick 2 4s. So all we're going to do is we're going to grab a Lifesteal Strike instead, our Lightning Pursuit as always, and then of course our ordering for this. Don't be crazy and make this all grossly ordered. Do I want to put Phrase Decay? Is this a chance for me to fix this? That actually looks a little bit more appealing to the eyes. So I'm going to do that like this. Okay, cool. So as you can see, we've picked our Lifesteal Strike instead. This is also an option for you to, move around these things if you can. If you're someone like me who get some people how they like to order their stuff. I'm like, oh, this looks gross. You can actually do it via this process itself, so pretty easy to do there. But you pick all your items, you pick all your affixes, cool to go, or good to go. Make sure you choose your affixes. It actually will not let you not pick up to 8 slots. Keep that in mind. You can't, not pick what you're looking for. So Lifesteal, Lightning Pursuit. Notice how it's not lit up until we actually pick everything. So that's cool there. That does give us a little bit of there. That does make sure that we don't mess up accidentally, but there we go. Everything is ordered, everything is set, we're good to go. On to the next item. So it goes to the next item, and next item will just be whatever is left over. Notice how Photon V adaptation is here now instead of what it had beforehand was Lifesteal Strike. You can also see what was here listed beforehand too. And because that's all that's left, we can just select them all and confirm. Notice we cannot accidentally downslot this. It doesn't let us. So you can't use this for, downslot shenanigans, but it does allow you to move things back and forth. And once we press confirm, it'll let us know what the first item is going to look like that we selected previously, which was, of course, our Rivet Soaring Blades, and what the second item is going to look like, which was our Atlas. And then lets us know how much it's going to cost. Right now, there's a zero cost campaign going on, so this is basically completely free, like I mentioned beforehand. Normally, this does cost some Meseta. I think it costs usually around $1 mil. It is a little expensive, but in the grand scheme of things, that amount versus the cost of re-augmenting a weapon is almost nothing. So you can see what we'll have here. We just choose yes, and the process is done. Now, if you look at our Rivet Soaring Blades, we now have a Lifesteal Strike, Lightning Pursuit, and everything here. And if we go back here and look at this Atlas, Golden Heavy adaptations now over here. Pretty simple, right? Pretty easy to do. We'll go through it one more time, mostly because I'm not playing Bouncer for any reason right now. I'm going to have to do this anyway, and it's free. So now we can see all these options are here available. We're going to choose Photon V Adaptation and Lightning Pursuit. Those are going to be the two that we're using there. And then Astral, Might, Grand Might. I believe we did Mana, Decay, and then Courage. Yeah. That looks nice. And then, of course, all are left over. Now we can see Lifesteal Strike is back here again. We confirm, and we're good to go. Now our weapon is back to what it was previously, ordered in the way that we like it, and you haven't lost a single thing. We haven't even spent a single cent. Now you're probably asking, what if I get a weapon to drop and it has decent augments on it? I don't want to re-affix it to lose those augments, but there are a few that I can change out. Well, you can do that as well. So we're going to use our Flotilla Saber as our base here to do this process. So you can see it has no S-grade augments on it whatsoever, but it does have an S1, S2, and S3 slot. So there are two ways we can do this. One, if your weapon has some decent augments on it, sometimes it's better to just swap out some things you don't need. For example, say we've got Mastery, we've got Luther's Soul, Reverie, and Luther's Soul. So we want to keep those three. We can see Reverie is melee power minus HP. We're not too concerned about that. We don't care. Luther is a plus melee, plus some HP, and then plus 1 PP, and then Mastery gives us plus 20 all attack. What we don't care about is 2 PP, and we don't care about burn, right? Let's say we want to get rid of those two. We want to put S-grade augments in those slots. Well, we can do that with this process. We select our weapon as the base, and then we find the weapon that has the S augments that we want on it. Say we bought a weapon and we found it has some S-grade augments on it that we want to use. Well, first off, you can do this process multiple times. You can't pick multiple items. You can only pick one at a time, but you can do this process multiple times. So let's say we want to grab, let's see. Shadow Gleam sounds cooler. We want the S-grade augments off of here. We want the Shadow Gleam and we want Aggressive Will. So we select it, and now as you can see, we have multiple augments to choose from. However, we have more augments to choose from than we have slots available to us. So we're going to choose our 2 augments. We want to keep Mastery. We want to keep Luther Soul and Luther Reverie. I don't know why this always gets me, but I like to have things ordered with Soul always first after the S-grade augments. And we can see that Spirit and Burn are dropped. If you go to next item, what it'll say is the following augment has not been affixed to an item, so it will be destroyed. Since these 2 are not S-grade augments, they do not have the ability to move over to the next item. So it's going to say these 2 will be removed. We choose yes because we're okay with that. And as you can see, because the first item did not have any S-grade augments, those did not move over to the second item. So all we can do is select basically all that we have available to us, and because we selected everything, it gives us the option to confirm. But what you'll notice is 2 slots aren't filled. Because those 2 slots aren't filled, when we choose confirm, it'll tell you, hey, this is going to be reduced. Are you okay with it being reduced from 8 slots down to 6? We choose yes, and it shows us what these will look like afterwards. Notice how this weapon didn't move up at all. This weapon did move down, however. So it does mean that we will lose out on some slottage on the second weapon, but we didn't care. We only got this weapon because we wanted to move over its S-grade augments. We don't really care about how many slots it is. It doesn't make a difference. Again, Meseta required is 0 because of the 0 cost campaign going on, but usually Meseta is usually used in this situation. We choose yes. And now you've taken this weapon that had some decent augments on it that you really didn't care too much about losing or having to re-augment it. But then you also got the S-grade augment slots filled in. You got rid of the dead slots that you really didn't need, and you didn't have to spend you didn't spend any money at all, actually. It was just on the weapon that you needed to transfer from. However, what if you want to add an S-grade augment slot to it? Say you luck out and you get a capsule. You want to use one of your capsules. That's where things are going to be a little bit different. we actually want to use augment in this case. So we have to affix the augment itself if that's the situation. Now, keep in mind when you're using the augment system, the regular one, you will end up losing out on some of these augments here. So doing this process does mean that you could lose out on some of these. However, you can kind of cheese it. Instead of augmenting your main weapon, you can augment a junk weapon. So we can go over to, say, this weapon here that we just used, right? Let's say we just used this weapon. We wanted to be able to augment it. And had we thought about it ahead of time, what we could have done is taken this weapon plus another weapon. So let's say we've got this one here now that has S grade augments on it. We could have taken this weapon plus another weapon, and we can use a capsule. We have a capsule for an S2, in this case, Photonic Will. Now we have options of all three of these. And again, we don't care about the slottage. We don't care if this succeeds or fails. We don't care how many slots this has, because in reality, we're just trying to get these S grade augments on. So we affix this. It's all 100%, doesn't cost anything, so it doesn't matter. We're good to go here. And now that this S2 is on here, we can go back to transfer S grade augment, go back to our saber, use this item, and bam, now we have the option to use Photonic Will as well. Now, I did want to do both of these. I know if you'd done this first, then technically you wouldn't have only had to do one process instead of two. Keep that in mind, that if you do have a situation like that where you've got an ad capsule, just get, that ad capsule on your junk fodder and just do it all at once, like I just showed you. Don't do the first option. I just wanted to show you that in case you do the first option, you have a chance of still fixing it for the second. So it's not a huge deal. And you can still keep all those same augments, right? Because, let's see. So because this one, the one we chose, let's go back real quick. This is a 5 slot. Because of the one we chose, we're good to go there. We have options, right? So let's say we're gonna take Shadow Gleam, we're gonna take Photonic Will and Aggressive Will. We would take Aggressive Will or Aggressive Will. I'm not sure. We're gonna go with Aggressive Will. But then you have, but remember, we're adding an extra slot in here, right? So we're gonna have to give something up. What do we give up in this case? Well, this one is giving us plus melee, but it's minus 20 HP. Maybe we don't want to be negative, so we're going to get rid of the Reverie in that case, right? Because Luther Reverie doesn't move over, it's on S grade augment, it gets destroyed, and then yet again we don't have the same number to move over. We do have, two of them here. We have Sea Gleam, we have Aggressive Will, but we don't have an S2 to move over, so it's going to lose a slot again. We end up with is our weapon with all three S grade augment slots filled, cherry picking, the augments we wanted to keep, of course, in a situation where you have more augments overall and ends up being bigger, so on and so forth. Sometimes you get really lucky and you get like an 8 slot setup that has like crazy amount of power, HP, and PP, but like it has like 2 or 3 dead augment slots that you can swap out for S grade augment slots. But it allows you to move that stuff over, right? Funny thing is the same thing works for units. So whenever I play Bouncer, I use Soaring Heaven Dance. Not skillful adept will, meaning I keep Soaring Heaven Dance on another unit that sits in my inventory, not in my inventory, but in my storage. But if I want to move it over, I just select it. Then I choose my Soaring Heaven Dance. I make sure to organize these the way that I want them organized. What is it? Veruna Glare, then Grace Might? Yeah, Grace Might. Bam. If you ever want to keep it in the same order, you can always just look at it off to the right hand side here. Cool. And then just make sure to select all of these again, and there you go. My unit now has Soaring Heaven Dance on it. Same process. If you get a cap, you need to put it onto a unit. You affix it to the unit, of course, use the cap during the affix process, and then transfer it over. Very same deal. Funny thing you probably noticed too is this unit is a 3 slot unit. Yes, it does not matter what slots they actually are. It's not like affixing something where it has to be the same slots or higher. It doesn't actually make a difference. So put Skillful Adept Will back on there. Get our unit set up just the way that we prefer. Nice and tidy. This we don't care about, and we're done. Notice that I was able to move everything over the way I wanted it to. I didn't lose out on anything I wanted to keep. Same thing with this weapon here. Works out perfectly fine. So this is kind of what I mean by when I say if you're not using your S grade augment slots, you're most likely throwing. I mean, I know it seems rough, it seems, what's I'm looking for? It seems harsh in a sense, but you're really not gaining anything by saving this. This means that S grade augment slots will continue to be useful in the future. That means, say for example, you happen to luck out like I did in one run and get S4 Raising Pursuit. Now, that is a very expensive augment right now, and you're probably thinking, I don't want to use it on a weapon that I'm not going to keep for a long period of time. That's where you're wrong. You're still going to be able to use it on a future weapon itself. So say I got, technically I did, but I sold it because it was selling for a really, really high amount at the time. But technically I get Raising Pursuit and I want to use it. I put it on my weapon, and then eventually when I make my crafts weapon that also has an S4 slot, I'm just going to move Raising Pursuit onto it. It means I use it now and I use it later. You're really not gaining any benefit by waiting whatsoever. Now, some people, they are moving to weapons that won't have S-grade augment slots. They may need to use their weapon as part of their fodder to augment a new weapon, so on and so forth. So in those cases, that might be something you want to hold off on. But to be honest, that is usually a very rare circumstance in 99.9% of cases. Most of the time, if you're just doing basic stuff, you're really not worried too much about that sort of thing. Even in higher advanced stuff, you usually can just move things around and manipulate it to put, certain augments you want to keep onto other fodder in other situations. But it is important to make sure to keep in mind that if you are trying to get an S5, for example, but the weapon you're getting it from also has that slot. So for example, I know some people say that, they make their Rivalate, they want to change it into something else, but they don't want to lose their augments. Technically, you need to make a second Rivalate that has the S5 that you actually want on it, move it onto your first Rivalate, and then category transfer it over. Hopefully that made sense for you guys. I know this process can be a little bit daunting to people. They don't want to mess up their augments. They're super scared. But once you realize how the process works, it is very easy to use and very easy to take advantage of. Anyway, guys, a like of the video is much appreciated and absolves you half your ad block guilt. The other half is absolved by subscribing. Both are completely free and they help me out a ton. If you want to keep up with the videos as they go live, you want to click on the bell icon to be notified of those videos, as well as community posts whenever I post those up for notifications, as well as joining us over on Discord or follow me on Twitter for notifications via those two avenues. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care. Peace out.